Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Community. I am so excited always to have my little bestie here, Maria, and we are going to talk about something that is near and dear to my heart. Hashtags.
I can't help but laugh because you are the hashtag queen.
Yeah, but what is this episode about?
You're no longer the hashtag queen.
Because?
Hashtags are dead.
Hashtags are dead. You can't be the queen of something dead.
You can't. Well, I don't know.
I guess a longer conversation about that. But I used to love hashtags, and I used to educate on hashtags all the time. And it was always a thing because people would use them, misuse them, use them inappropriately. And so that was like my number one thing in the social business club. I was like, enough with using hashtags this way.
Or when people wouldn't use them at all.
Yes, because they used to matter a ton.
They did.
And we actually used to use them as part of our strategy with our clients and with engagement and all of that. And then now we're like, buy hashtags.
Are you very sad about this?
Well, I mean, hashtags serve their purpose, right? So, like, even thinking about, like, the way that we've used them, it would help people find ideal clients. For engagement, you'd be able to connect with new people. Like, there was always, like, some good there for sure. Mm-hmm. But now it's just... like, there has to be other ways that people can get discovered. But it was kind of an easy way for people if they were like a fitness trainer and they used the hashtag calorie deficit or something like that. Like, it would be easy for people to find their right people, but no more.
I know. It is sort of like the end of an era, it feels like, which feels like a big milestone because we haven't been doing this business for that long. And this was such a core piece of what we did at the beginning. And even thinking back to like 2012, 2013, when Instagram was like really on the rise. And, we had those hashtags like Throwback Thursday or like for like, follow for follow, like the OG days of hashtags. Like that shit was popping. People love that.
Yeah, and even for us, like we used to do like hashtag optimizations for people, and we would like, show people how to use them, and then also like get people banks and stuff like that. And then now it's like, sorry, guys, you don't need those banks anymore.
It's kind of wild because it was like so integral to social strategy a few years ago. And I think it's sort of just been like dwindling and this might be the official death. But it's interesting how much like effort we poured into hashtag strategy and how much that actually helped our clients and the social business club members. And, even for things like external engagement when we're trying to grow our clients' accounts and engaging with hashtags. And they served a lot of great uses. And I think the end of the hashtag era is really just a symbol for the fact that Instagram is moving quickly, making changes, adapting. AI is a thing now, and there are all these new tools. So I guess it's just the new era of we got to be adaptable and move on.
And I think it's just a reminder that like things change on social so fast. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, hashtags have had their time. Like, they were there for a while. But like things do change on social. You have to be able to adapt. You have to be able to be thinking about things in a different way. Otherwise, you are going to be left behind.
Yeah. Adaptability is the main thing. And I think when people get kind of paralyzed with the inaction because there's like so much advice, like you have to worry about this and you have to worry about that and, your watch time and your hashtags and all these different things and you don't take action, but you maybe do a lot of like watching or learning and you're like kind of building. By the time you actually do something, you might have missed what you learned about, right? So I think it shows the importance of what we always talk about too in the membership of messy action, showing up imperfectly, and just trying things because by the time you learn something, it might be too late.
You might learn it and then it be gone.
Yeah.
This has happened to us before.
So you got to take action, guys. If you didn't use those hashtags, like you've now missed the boat. So
yeah.
if we, and I think even too, like our social audits that we used to do, or we still do, but I used to talk about hashtags a ton in the audits I would do for people because they were such a great way to impact reach and growth and reach your ideal client. I feel like a lot of people use them incorrectly. So I do think though some of the same principles can be applied to sort of the new world, where hashtags are dead. And I guess we can talk about that next. So
yeah.
Where this is all coming from is like straight from the head of Instagram. Otherwise, we would not be saying this. I think Kristina would die on the hill that hashtags are important forever.
Until I heard it from Adam Mosseri himself, I was like, you guys are wrong. This is still a fine. Use them.
And I think they probably still can help you reach a little bit. Like, and you can look in your analytics, like how much of your reach came from hashtags. And I'm sure it's getting you a few views and things like that, right? But What Adam said was that hashtags do not significantly impact reach.
Yes.
And he said, people don't want to believe me about this, but it's true.
He was talking to me directly.
And even he didn't talk a ton about it in the interview, but from what he said, it was very clear that he was like, we are like moving away from this. Do not like spend your time focusing on this. It does not significantly impact your reach. And he didn't exactly say what's in place of it, but I think we all know what's in place of it is just better search and SEO friendly captions, subtitles, audio, like all that stuff, right? So it's going away from having to just be its own little hashtag and moving towards just incorporating SEO keywords into all the stuff you do, alt text, captions, whatever you're kind of talking about, right?
Yeah. What would you say if someone was listening to this and they're like, what do you mean keywords?
I think it's thinking about your ideal client and what are they typing into the search bar. It's that simple. Like SEO sounds really fancy and complicated, and it can get complicated if you're like looking at the research and doing like the analytics on the SEO keywords. But to break it down very simply, it's just like, what is your ideal client, like when they're hitting that search bar, what are they typing in? So it's kind of like what you said for the fitness instructors for the calorie deficit hashtag, right? Like maybe they're just typing into the search bar like calorie deficit meals.
Yeah.
So somewhere in your caption or your video or both or your alt text or whatever, have those 3 words, right? So I think it's just getting really clear, first of all, on who your ideal client is, which we talk a lot about in the Social Business Club because it sounds cliche and, you might skip that step, but it's actually so important because you really need to understand them and what they want to know, what they're searching for, what content's resonating. But yeah, I think it's really, so one thing Adam actually did say in the interview was they haven't invested in the past a lot in search on Instagram, the search feature. And he's like, we just invested huge in that team. So I think it was a small team and they were kind of like doing their best is what he said. And now it's like a much bigger team. They're investing a ton into it because I think they realize how important it is. And you can kind of see this with TikTok, right? Like it's sort of taking the place of Google a little bit. Like I have friends who, instead of Googling things, they search on TikTok for things.
And it comes up in Google searches now.
Interesting. So more and more that search piece is so important. So yeah, he did say in this interview that they're investing heavily now in the search feature. So I think that will mean too that posts that are like old that, on Instagram, typically when you post something, it only gets traction for the first kind of few days. And then, it kind of just like falls by the wayside unless someone's creeping your profile. But what this will mean is that old content will be easier for people to find. It'll come up more for people in search, and the search is just going to get better and better. So yeah, to break it down simply, I think it's really about just figuring out what your ideal client's typing into that search bar.
Yeah, and that was a mistake a lot of people are making with hashtags too, is they would use hashtags that their ideal client wouldn't use. So they would use hashtags that they would use. So they'd be like, hashtag fitness trainer. And it's like your ideal client isn't using hashtag fitness trainer, right? So being able to find that is so important. And I think too, like there's a bunch of different ways that you could use the keywords, whether that be directly like in your caption, making that really clear, or even we've seen people put it at the bottom.
Yeah.
Where it's like keywords.
Yeah, they just list it, like kind of like how you would with hashtags, which I think also works. Like they're still there, right?
So what would you say to someone if they were looking for keywords? So if they're like, okay, I know like what keywords are, I might know what my ideal client is searching, like where could they find keywords?
Yeah, I think there are definitely some tools like SEMrush and Key Search and things like that if you want to get a little more fancy with it. They are paid tools, but they are helpful and easy to see kind of what keywords are trending in your niche. If you don't want to get that intense, I think you could just start Googling some stuff. Yeah. You could ask your ideal client what they're searching for, like just do some market research. I even find now, like a friend texted me yesterday and was like, do you mind if I ask you like an Instagram question? Like a business owner friend. And I was like, yeah, please. And she asked me a question and I was like, can you actually ask me more of these questions? This is super helpful for me to know when we're like creating content and helping Social Business Club members. And like, I want to know what your questions are. And the question was like, how do I change my square grid to a rectangle grid? And I was like, oh, that's so helpful to know that you're like curious about that information, right? So that's probably something she would like Google and maybe not get the answer to. But if we created a reel about that or something, then it would show up for her. So even that I think is a cool way to find SEO keywords. And then Lastly, I would say look at what your competitors are doing who are like super successful. And they don't even have to be direct competitors like for us, like someone like Later, who's like a scheduling platform talking about social, like what are they talking about, what's working and trending for them. And then there's also that site that neither of us can ever remember the name of. Is it Ask the Public? Answer the Public?
I think it's...
We'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah, I think it's Ask the Public.
I think it might be Ask the Public. If you Google that, I'm hoping something comes up for you. But it dives into like what people are searching for. So that can be helpful too.
Yeah.
But also just start typing words into Google is a really easy place to get started, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, I think one of the biggest business and content hacks out there is just keeping track of the questions people ask you, like, and using their language for whatever it is that they're asking. So if they're asking you about something, like, not overcomplicating it and making it something that that resonates with them.
Yeah, and I think like the bright side to all this is, one, you don't have to spend time finding and worrying about hashtags and switching them up and looking at your analytics for what performed best and doing all that stuff anymore, right? So you can redirect that energy into looking for SEO keywords, learning more about your ideal client, figuring out what they're searching for. And that just helps your content strategy because then you can also design content based on those questions and what's being searched for, right? So I think although it's sad to let the hashtags die, I think at the end of the day, it does actually make things a bit easier.
Well, that's all from us on the hashtag front. We are so sorry if you are in mourning like me about hashtags being gone, but let us know how you're finding your keywords, where you're putting them, and what results you're getting, and see if there's any difference. Like, success leaves clues. You start to see like what works and what doesn't work, and so hashtags being gone might not be a bad thing.
Yeah, I think it's actually a good thing.
Let's see.